Sit back and relax and listen into some confessions, inspirations, and eternal truths from our artist friend, Harley Brown. You want some of Harley's thoughts about art? Let's go! Play us in, Harley, for old time's sake.
Hi there, this is Harley Brown, and I want to talk about art. Let's call this going your way, and I do mean going your way. That's what art is, your way. You know, we might ask ourselves, am I applying these strokes right? Goes through our minds. Well, let's relax, because there's no correct approach. Just look at the various books on painting trees, shorelines, the human face. Which book is right? In the arts, what we personally think to be right eventually becomes more obvious. And just as there are basic rules in grammar, there are solid guidelines in art. But Easel time, that's what brings out our individuality. Our resistance wears down. And strange as it might sound, we become ourselves and not a hazy copy of what we think we should be. And when that happens, we most certainly continue to find the right way. But we got to keep at it. Easel time. Remember, this is called going your way, which means you, me, our individuality. Once in a while in my workshops, and I do remember, I would ask the artist to work on a single piece for an hour and then have them destroy it. But before you think I was in the odds with my students, that we're having trouble, let me fill in some details in my purpose. There is a purpose. The artists were to work on one pose, and at the same time, they could not look at each other's artwork. Even I walked around the room talking with eyes cast upon the floor. The students were to paint at a good pace, fast enough to keep ahead of a meddling, conscious mind. Note, the inner mind is like lightning, and when allowed, keeps way ahead of the conscious thought. After a few practice runs and knowing that their works would never be seen, this is important, the students felt a freedom from restraint and a natural flow. Try it. It matters not if a masterpiece or a disaster happens, only the process. Now, warning, however good the results, you must destroy the piece, because knowing that you might keep it will affect its free flow. I suggest doing this only periodically. It's very important. I've done it, and I've always heard positive things from the students. So here's me in 1 minute. And I'm now about to tell you that I'm a much simpler person with 3 main points of character. The undiluted complexities of my earlier years have mostly disappeared. Life's basics are real, and because of that, they can be inspiring. Number 2, I now realize the incomprehensible, even that word, isn't worth understanding. But I do admire those who relish its challenge. Number 3, I'm less apprehensive of life in general. But, and here's the secret behind all this, I guess if you want to call it that, I'm a paranoid, and it remains. Although I still have strains of conceit, I'm now more inclined to appreciate what surrounds me. From the quails feeding in the backyard to the greatness of others. On reflection, I haven't the vaguest idea how I coped, but here I am, a model who might give others hope. Really, that's so true. Hope that if given the time and temperament, it's possible to become an authentic individual. And that's what this lesson touches upon. I'm not complacent. There is so much more to learn, but now I realize how and where to find such knowledge, which has always been right there in front of me. And finally, I understand that smile the old maestros would give me, as if to say, Give it time, Harley. Give it time. And they would say, I'm sure they said to their friends, give him time, he's not ready. He may never grasp what it's all about, but he'll know where to look. Well, I did find out where to look, and where to find my mind going. So I invite you, dear reader, to continue this journey with me. If I can pass on just one thing that sticks and makes a difference, then it's worthwhile. Believe me, I know this is all chatter and it's not a picture of me drawing, but I think words are so important, when they come from the heart. And all of this is directly from me, the thoughts from over the years, and I've got a lot of them. And I love to pass them on. Believe me, I know plenty of the frustrations that we have. And I can say this in all honesty, that most can be solved, altered, or just plain ignored. We'll continue to have the tears and get the bruises, mental bruises. But let's just consider what the best part of the adventure, and we'll say, and I always say this too when I get up in the morning, the adventure has just begun. Here's just for fun, some bon mot. Here's a few that I've come up with. Practice never makes perfect, but it keeps us in the right direction. I've never been unhappy in front of an easel. Frustrated, yes. Unhappy, never. Curiosity and imagination trump clever. Don't underestimate. Now these are things to think about, but don't underestimate the richness of colors next to grays. That's kind of like an exciting actor next to somebody that's standing there, or just moving around in the background. Or, you see or a dancer, you see the dancer doing all sorts of things on the stage, and you see the backup dancers there. So that's kind of like the richness of colors next to grays. You don't want color all over the place, or grays all over the place. At the easel, you are the master of the moment, no less. We can never duplicate nature, but our imitations can be interesting. All have personalities. Fence posts, butterflies, even humans. There's a fence post that John Singer Sargent did, which is a masterpiece. It's a fence post. I think that the loving of a person and the loving of art are so close. You'll never regret having high-quality photos of all your works. Trying is not good enough. Even the word is half-hearted. Trying. It's like hope. I hope I'm going to be better next year. Well, no, don't hope. Do it. Rather than finish a painting, we usually slow down to a stop. I think that's, what it is. There's, in a way, a lot of people feel that there's always another few strokes to do. But my inner mind says, that's it, Harley. You're finished. That's it. Get up, walk away, have a coffee. Whatever stage of art you are, don't get ahead of yourself and cut corners. Everything I see is connected, even when it's wrapped in atmosphere. Timid always gets the wrong results in arts. Sensitivity is based on strength. That's so true. Okay, now I can think of 20 principles to apply when painting an eye. That's for starters. Am I going to think about them while proceeding? Not when many of them have become second nature. Procedures, if you want to call them that, principles, approaches, and so on, we can call it whatever we want, but they're second nature. So when I'm painting an eyebrow, I don't ponder the basic theories. We don't want to do that. It's like when you're acting, you don't want to think about acting school. You want to think about that moment and the person that you're becoming. So I'm involved with that particular eyebrow's very unique shape, like no other on earth, none. All those theories are in that deep container of my mind and will instinctively come to the surface when needed. What colors to use, where to soften the edges, the form shadows, grouping the eyelashes. The principles are the same. It's the uniqueness of what we see and how we interpret. That's the spur. So there are two originals at the moment of creation, the singular artist and the singular subject. That's so important to remember. And I've always been thinking of that throughout my art life, is that there's the two important parts when you're an artist. There's you, the artist, and then there's the subject, whether it be a landscape, a person. This crucial combination that will make a painting like none other on earth. Good or not so good, it will still be one of a kind. That's so important to remember. If you have no burning conviction with a painting that you're working on, pause and reconsider. Recently I was painting a model and my heart wasn't there. It just wasn't there. Every stroke was applied by rote. Ba-do, ba-do, ba-do. Just like doing the scales. When this happens, I get on top of the situation or finally put the deer painting to rest. I might make a subtle change with the pose or lightning. Sometimes I'll go to a different direction, rework the colors, maybe get a bit eccentric, perhaps exaggerate a form or push a color. Any or all of these changes can make the difference, but in this particular case, nothing worked. I rarely get stuck like this, but I listened to my age-old sixth sense and scrapped what I had already painted. Then I asked the model to put on a totally different outfit, moved the easel to a different part of the studio, had a coffee, talked about a trip to Australia. When I got back to the studio, I was the same person with the previous hour erased from my mind. All the grand emotion and skills I was smothering with this first session came bubbling back and I was on top form. Now I say that, I repeat that. All the grand emotion and skills that I was smothering with the first session, all those emotions and skills came pounding out. And I was back in top form. So, on top of all this, we should not set up a wall of ego to our continued development. When we're talking about how we approach and what we've learned. I've known artists who simply can't give credit to others who might have affected their art. They feel it would make them appear less genuine. Yet I can immediately think of 100 talented artists who are more than happy to give credit to those who made impressions on them. All the great artists had noted influences in their lives. Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Picasso, Michelangelo, they all eventually went their own way. How an artist was influenced is interesting. How an artist paints is everything. I was influenced by many, many, many artists. Endless, just throughout my life and career. As we're influenced since our childhood by our parents, our friends, and so on, but we eventually become ourselves. Some sooner, some later. It took me a little while as far as being my personality. My art, it eventually became me. When I started out, I hesitated working with commercial companies because I knew I'd be accused of selling out, not doing art for art's sake. Now I chuckle at such sensitivities. Are we supposed to go after other people's standards, seek their approval? The answer to that is self-evident. We don't have enough time in our lives to make other people happy. That would be a big project. That's too much complex, with no end in sight. In truth, my career has had some shining moments, and there were times I sold out like crazy. And I don't have a bit of regret for those sellouts. All things considered, my life in art has been bountiful, and I've spent very little time with useful self-recrimination. Make your final decisions and live with them your way. Selling out really helped me bring food to the table, if you want to call it selling out, but it was always art. It was always art, and I loved it. Others may call it something else, but that's their waste of time thinking about. I've always felt that my technique at each moment is what gets the job done. The job of how best to work out foliage or lay in hair next to the forehead. What happens is an amalgam of observing art and artists, plus my own hit and miss methods throughout the years. And hit and miss is a big deal in the art world, and you all know what I'm talking about. Now when I put down that stroke, it appears to come from somewhere within. That's it. It's like somebody skiing and taking a turn and so on. All those things come from within, the inner mind. You can't be conscious of all those things. It happens too fast and too dynamically. So thanks to all that help and endless labor over the years, whatever we're doing, playing the piano, anything we're doing, and I'm comfortable knowing that my technique I use of each of these moments is ultimately mine. And I guess that's because I don't think about it. It happens. It goes. My conscious mind looks at what I'm about to do. My inner mind steps in and helps me immensely with the job. Parallels. If you want to watch a good play, movie, or a great, well choreographed dance, you can find similarities in what you see and apply with your own art. Do this experiment with yourself. This is interesting. Next time you see a terrific movie, bring out a small pad. As the film progresses, write down 5 insights that you might use in your art. I watched the Alvin Ailey dancers a few years ago. Each member's bravado performance fully inspired the others to do their best. It was obvious. I saw Glenn Close on Broadway. Even with dozens of actors on stage, she was the absolute center of interest. Brando gives us raw shadings and surprises. He never resorted to cliches. I remember doing a strong painting after I witnessed a virtuoso performance of pianist Oscar Peterson. God, I love to listen to his art. Brubeck, Peterson, all of them. His nuances, control, flamboyant sparks all motivated my piece. His music urged me to take such chances. And the result was pure Harley Brown. Thanks to all. Whether you think so or not, you are putting plenty of your own uniqueness into your own painting. You can't help it. And the more you paint, the more you leave yourself each work with yourself in it. You're leaving yourself in each one. All the great people in the arts stand out from the crowds, no exceptions. That's to be weighed when we are tempted to take the easy way and go with the flow. Putting it another way, each of our lives means something in particular. I know I sound like I'm talking to, like I had a lot of people, teachers and that, talking to me. But I mean these so much. Each of our lives really means something special, honorable, something in particular. Sooner or later, most of us gets a fairly clear appreciation of who we are. There's a strength in that knowledge which finds its way to our works, and along with it is a certain edgy tranquility, joyous tranquility. Edgy because we want to continue pushing ourselves into the unknown and exciting territory, and at peace with ourselves because we're not filled with anxiety. And how to get there? Nothing like anxiety. And I found that when I'm anxious, and this has never failed, ever, not once. When I get anxious, I'll have a pencil ready and a piece of scrap paper. It can be an envelope. It can be on a back of a magazine. The very second I start the first or second or third stroke, the anxiety is gone. Somehow it just pours out of me, and I feel so good. I feel it right from my tummy right up to my head. Well, here we are. This is the end.
Harley's works can be seen on his social media platforms Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Harley Brown Artist, as well as his signature article within the pages of International Artist magazine. No longer doing workshops, his ideas, techniques, and art images can be found in his book Harley Brown's Eternal Truths for Every Artist, reprinted for a third time. This is available directly through his website, harleybrown.ca. Now in his 80s, his life remains eccentric, still open to inspiring moments as